Welcome, age of vintage society. Tim Curry was born into a fairly conservative Methodist family in post-war Britain, but has become an internationally recognised name over the last 60 years. Our story follows his journey from his humble beginnings to his international fame as a singer, songwriter, stage actor, movie star and voice-over actor. Tim has become one of the world's most beloved villains with his ability to bring to life the worst monsters of our imaginations and his love of scaring us all silly with his charisma, silky voice and incredible versatility. How did Tim Curry's lie explode into success? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Tim Curry, not your conventional leading man. Timothy James Curry was born in the small town of Grappenhall in Cheshire on April 19, 1946, to Patricia, a school secretary, and James, a Royal Navy chaplain. He was the younger of two children, both talented in music. His older sister Patricia eventually became a concert pianist. Tim grew up in Plymouth and inadvertently found his passion and talent for singing in the church, as his father was a minister. At the age of 6, he joined the church's choir and became a boy soprano. When Tim was 12, his father died of pneumonia, and Tim took over the family gardens, a labour of love at the time, but a passion that remains with him today. Not long after, his mother moved the little family to South London, and Tim was sent to boarding school for a little while. As he got older, he was granted a scholarship to Kingswood School in Bath, England, from the ages of 12 to 18, where he became interested in acting and singing, and he started acting in school plays, which he absolutely adored. Once he finished high school, Tim took a gap year and travelled around Europe with a friend, Richard Cork, and when he came back he decided to go to Birmingham University, where he studied drama. At the time, this was one of the few universities to offer this sort of program, and Tim thought it would deepen his understanding of his craft. It was a noble ambition, but Tim wasn't the best student and spent a lot of his time doing extracurricular activities that he prioritised over academics. He did manage to scrape by, but Tim's preference was for the stage rather than the school desk, even if it was studying his passion. One of his professors tried to kick Tim out of his final exams, as he claimed he had never seen him in class before. Academia just wasn't his thing. He did end up graduating in 1968 with a combined degree in English and drama, and then hit the graduate conundrum of needing experience to get a job, and he simply didn't have any experience on a stage outside of the school environment. He had seen an ad for the cast of the original London production of Hair, and he desperately wanted to apply. So he did what any good actor would do. He pretended. He claimed some professional experience and an Actors' Equity Association membership, both of which he most certainly didn't have. Tim got the job. They were well into rehearsals before his lie came to light, but by then the producers were so impressed with him that they let him stay and even paid for his equity card. Tim was in the original cast of Hair that played at the Shaftesbury Theatre in West End for 2 years, and then went on to various roles in nearly 20 more productions, mainly in the West End, but also in Chelsea and, interestingly, in Scotland, where he played the role of Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Scottish Opera in Glasgow. The role in Hair not only gave him the experience he needed for the future, but it gave him the chance to mix with other up-and-coming actors, producers and writers. This is where Tim met Richard O'Brien, a playwright who was working on a new script and songs for his musical called The Rocky Horror Show. Tim lived on Paddington Road, not far at the time from a gym, and one day in 1973, when walking past, he saw O'Brien leaving the gym and asked what he was doing in there. O'Brien replied that he had been looking for a muscle man who could sing. This intrigued Tim and begged him to know more. O'Brien gave him a copy of the script and told him to contact Jim Sharman, who was to direct his new musical production, if he was interested. Tim recalled thinking to himself that after reading the script he thought it would be a smash. He spoke with Sharman, and his enthusiasm and friendship with O'Brien eventually got him the role of Dr. Frankenfurter. Rehearsals began and roles began to be fleshed out from the black and white script into the bold technicolor of a bad B-grade movie that O'Brien was satirizing. Tim had originally envisaged the character Dr. Frankenfurter as a doctor in a white lab coat. He actually rehearsed the doctor with peroxide blonde hair and a German accent. Later he spoke to a woman with a very upper-class English accent, and suddenly saw the character would be better served with an accent that sounded like the Queen. It was during rehearsals, when the director helped Tim evolve the character into the cross-dressing diabolical mad scientist with an upper-class accent that we all know and love today. Like a lot of actors at the beginning of his career, he was worried about typecasting and never being able to shake the iconic character that he was creating, something that has plagued a number of well-known actors who are thought to be able to only play one type of character. It turned out to be the right move for Tim Curry, and he not only played the original Dr. Frankenfurter on the stage in 1973, but also on the screen, where the stage version was made into a film, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, in 1975. The original show premiered on 19th of June 1973 in the small experimental space called Upstairs at the Royal Court Theatre, West End Theatre. As we all know, the show was an outstanding success, and in time the show moved to several other larger locations in London before finally closing on September 13th, 1980. The show ran for a total of 2,960 performances, with various actors taking on the roles during this time. In the meantime, Tim, with a completely new cast and crew, moved to America in 1974 and started playing in the Roxy Theatre in Los Angeles, and had a successful 9-month run. The show was closed to allow Tim to return to Britain to shoot the movie version of Rocky Horror, with the plan that the new show would open on Broadway just before the film's release and serve as a vehicle to drive patrons to see the film version. This had worked well with other productions like Jesus Christ Superstar in the past. The 1974 opening on Broadway at the Belasco Theatre with Tim in the iconic lead role only lasted 48 performances, despite getting both Drama Desk and Tony nominations. After the failure of the Rocky Horror Show on Broadway and the show collapsing, Tim went home and opened a bottle of vodka, and in his own words, he spent a month getting thoroughly patched. He began to see the experience as a teaching moment, and at some point decided that no one could make him feel worse than he already did, and so he began to work again. His first role after Rocky Horror was as author Jerome K. Jerome in a television production of 3 Men in a Boat, alongside Michael Palin and Stephen Moore. The director, Stephen Frears, told Tim that after seeing Tim perform as Frankenfurter, he knew Tim could play anything. The reviews were good, and the show was well received. His cultivated British accent that worked so well on the Rocky Horror Picture Show simply didn't work in America, and so to teach himself the American accent, Tim started taking work in cartoons and animations as a voice for characters. You'll know his voice from animated versions of Peter Pan, where he voiced Captain Hook and, ironically, as Mr. Curry in Paddington Bear. In the background, the movie and the continuing production of the Rocky Horror Show and his role in it were opening doors for him all over the world. The more the cult status of the show grew, the more opportunities for Tim to both act and sing became available. Between 1978 and 1981, Tim worked on a studio album so he could fulfill his lifelong dream of being a vocalist. He worked with A&M Records and produced 3 studio albums. None of these was a major success, but he did have a minor hit with I Do the Rock, which reached 53 on the American Billboard in 1979. His first album was mostly covers, but his second, Fearless, was all original songs written by Tim himself. His third album, Simplicity, was created at night while he worked on films during the day, but by the early 80s Tim conceded that it was not his fate to be a rock star. Tim continued to work on the stage and enjoyed a long stretch as Tristan Tzara in the play Travesties, before working on a British horror film called The Shout. The next decade was good for Tim, and he had movie and television roles one after the other. He was kept busy in movies like Amadeus, Annie and The Hunt for Red October, as well as stage shows like The Threepenny Opera and Me and My Girl. In 1982, Tim returned to the stage in London as the sexed-up Pirate King in the Joe Papp's pop revival of The Pirates of Penzance. This was a role that Tim got to sing and prance around in, something we know he is good at. It was also the first time he took formal singing lessons, as the songs were vocally demanding and at the high end of his vocal range. Although throughout this time Tim was never seen to be in a relationship, many people questioned his sexuality, but in reality Tim is a very private man whose personal life he has managed to keep completely under wraps. He is one of the few stars who has managed to create a career and feed the tabloids on his talent alone. In the late 1980s, Tim moved permanently to Los Angeles, and in the 1990s he continued with performances on the stage, acting in movies as well as appearing in television shows, and lending his voice to video game characters, as well as well-loved animation characters like Ebenezer Scrooge. Hanna-Barbera approached him about voicing the character of the Serpent in the cartoon adaptation of The Creation, a role he thoroughly enjoyed. Tim went on to be one of the most prolific, well-known voice-over artists in the industry. He has voiced hundreds of characters, most notably Nigel Thornberry in The Wild Thornberrys and Captain Hook in Peter Pan and the Pirates, which he won an Emmy in 1991. Tim never saw voice acting as a poor cousin of real acting. He puts his love for the work down to not having a TV as a kid, but always listening to the radio, and so he developed a great imagination, a trait that he believes all good voice actors must have to connect intimately with their audience. The 1990s were when Tim became the singular star that he always wanted to be. The depth and breadth of his acting abilities, along with his fantastic singing voice, had him starring in many blockbusters of the time: Home Alone 2, The Three Musketeers, The Shadow, Congo, which was a flop, and the famous Muppet Treasure Island. Tim thoroughly enjoyed his time on set, citing that there was a conspicuous lack of ego among Muppets. You might remember Lover's Knot, Duckman, Over the Top, and The Addams Family Reunion, in which he starred as Gomez, husband of Morticia, played by Daryl Hannah. He played brilliantly the bad guy Roger Corwin in the highly anticipated movie version of Charlie's Angels in 2000, as well as you would expect him to, except he wasn't really the bad guy after all, even though we expected him to be. Tim is usually cast as a villain, which he does so well, or as a character with quirks and eccentricities, another part he plays so well. He appears to have no interest in playing conventional leading men roles. Tim's mother died in 1999 after a 2-year battle with cancer, and then in 2001 his sister, Judith Patricia, passed away from a brain tumour, leaving behind her 3 children. It was a rough few years for Tim, as he was the sole survivor of his original family of 4. Tim also recorded a wide range of audio books, including Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, which he was nominated for a Grammy in 2002. This recording allowed Tim to put down roots, and he bought and restored an old 1920s mansion nestled under the Hollywood sign and looking out over the city. He found the original plans for both the house and garden and painstakingly recreated both of them, adding his own touches along the way. There were rumours in the mid-2000s that Tim was dating his agent Marcia Hurwitz. They stepped out together and were seen on many occasions, including awards and dinners over a number of years. If there was a relationship, it lasted only a few years before it was noticeable that they were no longer being seen together socially. Spamalot, a satirical musical stage show about the life and times of the court of Camelot, was conceived by Eric Idle, and Tim was approached to play the part of King Arthur. The show was a resounding success and played in Chicago, Broadway and London during the 3 years he played the character. This production scored Tim his 3rd Tony nomination for his very British portrayal of a very British character, something he hadn't played in many years. After he handed the crown over to Simon Russell Beale, he returned to LA for a rest. Musicals at his advanced age were wearing him out. He found them physically demanding, and an old foot injury had reared again, and he needed surgery and time off from treading the boards. Work continued to flow in for Tim, and the list of movies and television series is longer than your arm, and includes highlights such as Psych, Christmas in Wonderland, The Colour of Magic, Criminal Minds, and Agatha Christie, Appointment with Death. Tim was cast as the player in the stage show Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, but was forced to pull out due to ill health. Chest and breathing problems were cited. In 2012, Tim had a stroke that left him needing physical and speech therapy for years. His family managed to keep it from the press for nearly a year before it was leaked, giving him time to recover in private before dealing with the worldwide interest in his health and recovery. Since then, he has decided not to act, but continues to bring characters to life with his voice acting, as he needs a wheelchair to get around. He has attended the occasion fan convention questions and answers and photo opportunities, but has scaled right back on films and movies. He now travels extensively on the convention and fandom circuits and makes guest appearances at Comic-Con, MegaCon and Fan Expo. He does virtual meet and greets with his fans and also appears at cabaret evenings in LA, where he sings his own original songs occasionally. Despite his stroke and the setback, Tim says, "I do try to look on the bright side of life because I think it's dull and annoying to look on the dark side of life, and you're no fun to be with. And I think that's a personal responsibility of everyone." If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Some become successful in Hollywood through lies, others through their bedroom. How Yvonne De Carlo's way to Hollywood was through her bedroom. Watch this video and find out what was her secret.